Hey guys, welcome back to Django tutorial. In this tutorial, we are going to talk about Django forms and how to use and how to reuse the Django forms in HTML without rewriting the code. So first of all, Django forms are nothing but it's a class in which is used to create HTML forms by using the model, and it is an efficient way to create a form without writing HTML code. Django automatically does it for us to reduce the application development time. For example, suppose we have a model containing various fields like employee name, department name, surname, salary, and the various fields. We don't require to repeat each and every field in the form file for this session. So I'm going to talk about how to create a model and how to reuse that model inside your HTML model form. Okay. So let me create a Django sample project for defining the model forms. So here I'm going to create a project. Django admin start project Django forms. So after creating the project, so I'm adding one more app. So Python minus.py where I'm going to create a model, and that model I'm going to display it on the HTML, and the start app web app. Now my web app is created. So now as an insert step, so I'm actually migrating the changes so that it will create a default required tables inside of my database. And after that, I will create a super user so that I can see and I can monitor the admin console activities. So now it is creating the various tables: log table, log entry, permission, user management, and session. So different tables it has been created on my database. So now I'm creating a super user. Create a super user. And specify any credentials here. So now my application has been created, and web app is initiated on that, and at the same time I did the migration for creating the default tables, and also I created a super user. Let's run the application now, minus.py, and run server. So now my server is running without giving any error. So let's go to your app, and by default it will run it into the port 8000. So now you can see this window, your application is up and running. So now open your application in the editor. This is my Django forms. This is the my file. So now I can first of all I need to specify my created app inside of my settings.py. Let me increase the font size. Okay, so here is an installed apps web app. So the created app I am actually specifying it inside that. So after doing that, so I need to specify the URL for that so that when I hit a specific URL, so it will open it will go to that respective app, then it will return the requested entries on this. So for that, so I'm actually defining the URL patterns for my created app. You can go to my previous app where you can see Django, the basics, how to create app and how to define this URL pattern, how to choose the regular expression for that. So section I'm using it for the index. So whenever I hit a localhost colon 8000, so by default it will come to the URL patterns inside this URL pattern. So it will open the second path value. Okay. So here I'm defining the URL pattern for my web app dot URLs, and I'm creating a file inside my web app urls.py. So now what I can do, so instead of actually writing the same code again, so here this setup code block, I'm copying it from the urls.py. I don't require the admin section here. Just copy and paste it here, and I'm removing this part, admin part. So after doing this, so now I need to define the view for that. Okay, so currently I'm keeping it as a blank. Okay, so now what I can do, I can go to the view. So inside a view, I can define the view for the my web app. Okay. So inside of my view, inside this section, so I'm creating a function called index, which will take the request as an object and using it as a return a render. Okay. So before rendering anything, so what I can do, so I'm creating HTML file inside that under the folder templates. Okay, so go to the template. This is the predefined the keyword called templates. You have to use the same keyword. If you want to change it, you can change it on inside the settings.py. Go to templates, and I'm creating the file called registration.html. So in this example, I'm taking a file. I'm taking the model form for the employee registration. So, and I'm creating the model. So from the model, whatever the fields I have defined, on those model fields, I can render it on my HTML registration.html. So instead of actually creating the form from scratch again. So inside here, I'm just using registration form. So this much I have done. So now if I go to my views, inside of my view, I'm rendering my HTML page, registration HTML page, and passing the request object and the registration.html, and the blank values I'm sending it to my HTML page. Okay. So let's check so whether it is working perfectly or not. Okay, so before that, I want to actually save the changes. So here I need to define path. If I enter a blank, then I need to call the view, specific view. Here I can define the from import views, views.index. Okay, so all these changes are saved. So now let's go here and then refresh the page. Changes are reloading, so it will take a couple of seconds. We restart the server. sometimes if you create any static content like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, so if the content is already there and if you are modifying that, so those changes will automatically reflect. And if you are adding in new files like HTML or CSS, so it is recommended to restart the server. So in this section, so we are getting this error. Okay, so it is saying that okay, we don't have um, any module called import. Okay, so let's go here and then figure it out exactly what was the error. Okay, so let me re-import it. So it should be the form instead of import. Okay, save the changes. So now go here and then refresh the page. So here you can find the HTML content data here. Okay. So now this is the basic stuff here. So now onwards, so we will create a form, okay, model, and that model form, so we will use it on inside of my HTML. So as I described in initially, so we are going to create a model, and Django dynamically reduce the application development time by reusing that model inside of my HTML. Okay. So that model contains the various fields. Okay, these fields we can dynamically generate it inside of my HTML page. So now I'm creating a model here. Okay, so creating the model name is employee and model start model, and I'm using the name model start char field. The max length I'm using it as 50. I'm just copying and pasting these values. Okay, so one value I will use it for the city, and one value I will use it for the department. Okay, and one value I will use it for salary. Okay, so now I created a model. My model is created, and let me add this model inside my admin console so that I can see it on inside my admin console. So I can go to this admin console. So here, so I can add this one. Click on this my admin so that this data I can see it on my admin console. Okay, dot models import. My model name is employee, and admin dot site dot register, and your model name. My model name is employee. Okay. So after doing this, so now I created new model, and this model is added into admin console. Then I want to resync the database. Okay. So without resyncing, so it is not possible to actually see the changes on inside your admin console. So now for resync the model, your database, I can use the command manage.py and make migrations. So it will create a file, migration file for your model, and this model changes we can apply into your database. So it actually created a model employee for me. So the model file is created under the migrations folder. So now let's apply this migration change, these changes, migration changes. So inside my database, I mean. Now changes are applied. So if I go to console and my admin console, if I log into the admin console, I can see the changes of my employee. Okay. So now let's apply these changes in your Django forms. Okay. So that if I access my localhost colon 8000, so I have to render this entire HTML model changes in my HTML page. So for doing that, so what I can do, so first of all, this is my model, so which contain the various fields like the name, city, department, and salary. So these model changes I have to render it on my HTML page. For doing that, so I am creating a file called registration file. registration.py. So where I can define the Django form here. Okay, it's from Django import forms. Okay, so after doing this, so I'm actually taking the model. My model name is employee. So where I have defined the model. Okay, so let me create a class for that, employee form. Okay, so here this form I'm actually using it for the model form. Okay, model form. So here my metadata, which will indicate that class and my metadata inside this meta. So I'm using the model. My model name is employee. Okay. Similarly, we can use this model multiple models, which will support many to many regions. And coming to the fields. Okay. So inside these fields, I'm using it for the name. Okay. If I go to my model, so my field is a name and city. Okay, city, department, and salary. So for testing purpose, I'm specifying it as a name and city. Okay, so these are the set of fields I have used, and now the changes are done. So now I have to render the changes on my UI. So for rendering the changes, so I have to modify the view accordingly. Okay, so in this, I'm consuming my Django form under the registration and import employee form. Just the changes are changed. Save. Okay, save employee form, and the file name is, there is a spelling mistake on this. It should be the registration. Okay, registration, and go to the view. Inside a view, let me re-import the model again, form again. Import registration, import employee form. Okay, so after doing that, so I'm creating the object for my employee form, and this object I will pass it to my HTML. Okay, in terms of the form. Okay, so I can say emp. Okay, so this is my form object. Okay, so emp, and I will make it as a emp underscore form. So after doing this, so I can consume it in my HTML. Okay, so for doing this, this is the my variable which I'm actually passing it to my HTML, registration.html. Go to registration.html, and here use it your variable and as is. Okay, so after doing the changes, so now go to your HTML page and then refresh the changes. You can find that, okay, there are your name and then city. Okay, so your changes, your fields are dynamic fields. Okay, sometimes you can add 10 fields, or sometimes we may have 100 fields. Okay, so instead of adding and mentioning each and every field, what I can do, so you can comment out this line, and in the fields there is a predefined keyword called underscore underscore all. Okay, if you use the underscore underscore all, whatever the fields are available in models.py, those fields automatically will get rendered into your HTML page. Okay, so server is getting restarted. Okay, yeah, refresh the changes. Okay, if you see this, so these are the setup fields. So even if you modify any values, for example, okay, so here is my model. So inside a model salary, I'm using a char field. So instead of using a char field, if I set big integer, okay, big integer field, okay. So even if you do any changes, your server will reload it automatically, and the changes will be applicable on your HTML page. Okay, so if you add a new field, new HTML file, a new form field, for example, age, so that field also will get rendered automatically. So here, if I go here, so earlier it was a text field, now it is a big integer file. So it will not accept any text. Okay, so it will accept only the numbers. So earlier it was a text field, now it is a big integer field. So this is how we can create Django forms. Okay, let's summarize what are the changes we have done. So we created a Django form project, and after under that, so we created a web app is one of the Django app, and inside the settings.py, so I have specified inside my installed apps, my app name, my app. So then after that, I have defined my urls.py. So where when I hit the index, so it will go to the index.urls.py. So and after that, in my and I created a models. Okay, so inside of models, I have defined my employee model where it contains a set of fields. Then after that, so inside of my views, okay, so I consumed my employee form. For doing this employee form, I have created a file called registration.py where I have used a serializer here, the serializer which will convert your model into the JSON data, JSON format. And I created an object for my serialized object employee form, and I passed this my employee object into my HTML, and inside of my HTML, so I used this variable as is. Okay. So we can add additional customization, additional styling like CSS. We can apply CSS and JavaScript validations. So based on our requirement. Okay. Thank you all. I hope you enjoyed this video. Okay. In the next session, so we will cover a Django token-based authentication, or we can use a Django RESTful token-based authentication. Thank you.